Alright guys, what is up? I'm back with another God guide here. As you can see, you're going to be doing Thanatos. You know, Thanatos' kit is generally he's like an older god and he's one of the more basic ones, similar to Hunbat. There's not too much extra stuff going on with him, but he is one of the harder characters to play just because I think mainly he has no like escape in his kit. And also his abilities are like pretty unique where his passive, when you use abilities you just lose health. So yeah, Thanatos is like an execute god. I never really had Thanos passive too in depth recently, but yeah, all of Thanos' abilities cost health and mana to use at the bottom here. So rather than just mana, it costs health too. Although the mana costs are really low, you'll see, relative to other gods. But he has a lot of high sustain from last hits and like staying off his kit in general. So yeah, Thanos Scythe is his first ability. I think going back to normal cast is pretty good for these, just so people can see like what it looks like. You can do it yourself, but yeah. So it's just a line ability that shoots straight, as line abilities do. And then yeah, if you hit people, it'll heal. Like I said, using it costs health and mana. But this is his like most important ability in the kit, and it's kind of the make or break ability generally in Thana. It hits really hard and he does percentage health as well as just base damage, and you heal based on like the damage dealt also. So yeah, Thana 2 is kind of his mobility item, or it is, but it's not like a jump or anything. It's just movement speed on top of flat pen. Goes 1535 flat pen, so the flat pen's really significant, and it's also the ability that I max second. I max the Scythe first, then the 2. I don't know why I'm putting normal because it's always the same. But yeah, it just makes you go faster and gives you flat pen. And then when people get low, you go extra fast. I guess I can just get a bot really low real quick. That works with his ult also, but yeah, for his 2, when anybody's in that range, he gets extra movement speed. So yeah, he's really good at chasing people down low because of that, and also part of his passive is that when people are low, you always see them on the map. So like, I go over here and I'll see this guy through the walls. Kind of forgot that part of the passive. And then yeah, I showed his 3 there slightly, but his 3 is a big cone that does damage and silences for 1 second. Okay. Also, all of his abilities are 5% of his health. Go back to the passive. And then yeah, Thanatos ult is basically a semi-global, kind of like Thor ult or Rat ult, where you go up in the air and then you land. And your land will do a stun if they're not in execute range. You can show on this Odin. You'll stun them, which is really good to set up for your Scythe. And if they are in execute range, then like he's not in execute range. If they are in execute range, then like it like it seems like I'm saying that it will just kill them. Assuming they don't have Aegis. Okay. So yeah, those are his abilities. Generally it is pretty simple for the most part. Like the abilities themselves are straightforward. He's a little more complex where maybe you have to think about, like I talked about, your health going down with your abilities, and that's why he's kind of a little risk reward, because it's such a big swing between hitting or missing your scythes early, where you not only take health, but obviously you're not dealing damage. So it just is an extra swing compared to most gods that they wouldn't have. He's just a little more risk reward with that, if that makes sense. There's not too many exceptional mechanical things with Thana. In general, when I show his items, Hydra's is really good on him because of his auto cancels with like the pen on the 2 in general too is really good with it, but his auto cancels are really smooth overall. Wait, let me swap to instant cast. His auto cancels are really smooth, so Hydra's is just pretty required. You can just auto cancel really easily, and there's not actually that much to him. Like I said, he's pretty simple. It's more just being really good with auto cancels. Like most assassins are quite good with that, and patience around the 1, because the 1's so important. Like I mentioned with the swing in general, using his buttons damages him, like you can see there. But the 1, it's his hardest hitting ability, and the ability that you max first, as well as it'll heal you back from like the self-damage that you're doing by casting your abilities. So yeah, trying to be patient using your one-off of CC or waiting until people juke themselves to death is basically the best way to play Thana in my opinion. But yeah, there's not too much really to him in terms of like special mechanics or anything, I don't think. Okay, so yeah, I'll go into his builds now. I have gone back and forth between starters. Before Bombus Hammer, late game was pretty good, but I think honestly Mannequins should just be the play. In general, he's just pretty good around the whole game, especially if you get ahead. You can snowball really easily, and Mannequin helps with that. You don't have to get ahead, but yeah. You just don't... Mannequins is a little bad generally because the sustains on it's worse, but Thana passive with last hits healing him and his one heal kind of makes that not an issue at all. It's also not very good for mana sustain either, which you don't have a problem because your low mana cost for your abilities. And it's just giving you extra damage, a little extra tankiness with 10 prots, and yeah, it makes it hard to box him. So you can also be extra patient with your scythes from the like attack speed reduction. But yeah, after that, I think this first mace item is really flexible. I think all three of these are quite good. Maybe not quite good. Youn's I'm pretty sure is my favorite, but I've tried Crusher and I've opened up to that a little bit, and Brawlers a lot of times you just need it these days. So and Youn's is really good on him in general because you get also reduced cooldown from God kills, which somehow I haven't mentioned yet. So yeah, with 5 seconds reduced cooldown off of God kills, oops. Youn's kind of stacks up pretty well. Let me get reduced cooldown off. Because that's just reducing his scythe by half with just this. And if you get full cooldown, like, because you're going Hydras too, eventually you get 30%. But yeah, 4 seconds on your scythe's really big, and just your other abilities too. It'll insta like get your abilities up to basically wipe fights on your own, or like snowball them really hard. But at the same time, because of like the 5 seconds, I mean, it makes cooldown good and like also unnecessary. But you don't have to be like wiping the fights. But basically, this first item you only get one mace, one mace item in your build because flat pen you get 35 flat pen from his 2, and you'll get that leveled up pretty early, which makes more than one mace pretty efficient because you'll just overcap on flat pen. So you could go 2 for the passes, but it's really not that efficient. So if you do need anti-healing, you just kind of go Brawlers and you can't really go Jotuns. So yeah. But after this, I think Titan's Bane's really good on him. Your scythe kind of just going to chunk really hard. Titan's Bane's just good right now in general. Erendite and Bloodforge I think are really good items. I think Bloodforge is really good. Like these items are really good at just snowballing fights and continuously getting extra kills. It just kind of synergizes together. So maybe if you don't go Jotuns, I mean this last item can be kind of whatever. Erendite's still fine here. You can go Magi's, whatever if you want this. Hitman Kid too. But I think Heartseeker, you're overcapping with Pants. I meant Erendite, sorry. But if you don't go Jotuns, I think Erendite is pretty important to get earlier than Bloodforge. So yeah, say you need a Brawlers game, you'd go there. I would try to go like Erendite here for a little extra cooldown, and then last item I think Bloodforge is still fine. So like Mannequin and Bloodforge, these are fine. Like I said, the defensive items are Magi's or Mantle. Magi's pretty decent because you don't your ultra only CC immunity, but yeah, I think a build like this is pretty good. You don't need full cooldown, but like 30% once you're full build's not bad. And yeah, I guess those are his builds. So strengths and weaknesses, especially if you go Mannequins to start the game, Mannequin Scepter, he's really strong early. Like I said, that can turn pretty quickly if you like miss a scythe in a spot that you're like hard committed to a 1v1 where you or him are gonna die, and getting behind doesn't feel the best. But like generally, Thana Execute can keep him relevant because you can just kill frontliners while your team does most of the damage if they can stay ahead. But the God is definitely feeling the best when you can kind of get a lead and continue to push it. That's when he feels like really oppressive, so I would try to stray away from those like risky 1v1s where like maybe their character can immune a scythe really easily, like or they just have a good matchup into you, you know? But yeah, any scenario where maybe if you just fuck up your scythe really in general, and you just die off of it, I'd be a little bit hesitant in those scenarios. Or just really patient with the scythe, like I said, because it kind of lives or dies by the scythe, especially early, like literally. So yeah, you just gotta be really careful, and I think getting behind is what you really don't want on this god. Even though, like I said, I actually can keep relevant. He's really strong from ahead, so you wanna avoid the more risky plays, and getting really behind. But yeah, even though he's really good from ahead, from even, he's quite good too. So you don't have to like go crazy trying to snowball, but once you can get a lead, you push it very well. But yeah, you can stay even a little for a little until like mid game type of stuff, and then like you're still quite strong there as well. I guess I'll go into matchups that are good and bad. I'm not too sure of his best matchup. It can be a little awkward because like a god like Nem can 1v1 him sometimes, but he also has his 2 for slow immunity to like be safe from the Nem. So as long as he's not trying to 1v1 the Nem, it can be hard for her to kill until later on. Most should win 1v1s. But Thana you can easily start beads, so a lot of the CC gods don't own you as hard, like Neja or like Daji. You know, you're decent into them at least. But yeah, I think like his bad matchups, like a god like Ravin, can be kind of bad because you don't have an answer for. Not a big deal. A god like Ravin, you don't really have an answer for the root at all. So you get rooted, and then also he can easily to your silence, or maybe off chance he can to your scythe. So I think Ravin's one of his worst matchups, but yeah, in general, the gods that he can like run down, I think are gonna be best for him. Like rats, like maybe Little Medium and Pele potentially he can get owned by. But yeah, these gods, when he gets ahead of them, he can kind of farm most of them. And he doesn't have to worry about too much. It's more like when he gets behind them. Like if he gets behind like a Susano, this Susano's gonna go and be able to kill him really easily. Same with like an Awelix type of thing. So I don't know if it's more like God matchups. It's more like kind of the flow of the game. So yeah, generally he can be good into most, assuming he can get ahead. Which like you can base it on pressure. You know, like Pele, you're less likely to get ahead than like you would be against like a Hanbats or like a Susano. You know. And then yeah, in team fights, he's a little different than Susano and Hanbats, which I've talked about, where like they can kind of start fights with their ult, kind of play the fight slow in that sense, where they have impact at the beginning and then kind of slow it down. Where Thana's more of a, I'd say baiter overall. Like you can toss it out scythes during the fights for like poke or maybe silence and frontliners if like you're playing kind of by your backliners. Like he's good at doing that, but he's not really impactful in that sense. Where like Susano can toss an ult and hit like through to the backliners, hit 3 or 4 people, and get really big impact with his ult. Thanem needs to wait more and a little more team reliant if you're playing that style to execute a frontliner or people your carry's hitting. Um, yeah, he's not as good at impacting it as like a god like Susano or Hunbats, but he's good at finishing off the kills, you know. Although that can be a little awkward for him because if you land on a frontliner while the carries are just looking at you, you can get blown up, you know. So you got to be a little careful doing that style. But yeah, he can be good at ulting frontliners, executing them if your team's like really good at playing front to back and they can like cover you when you go in. But as well as he's quite good at killing carries. Um, his auto cancels overall basically just kind of can one shot. With his like if you two blink auto like scythe auto, people can die in that combo really easily with your Hydra cancels, Hydra's auto cancels. Um, so yeah, you can definitely win 1v1s really easily on assassins and easily win 1v1s on carries as well. Ulting on carries with relics in team fights can be a little awkward, so I would try to stay away from it if they have relics, because they can beads the instant you land, and then you kind of have like a frame where you can't actually do that much, where you're stuck in your landing animation, and you can kind of get owned there. Or they can beads Aegis your scythe, and then like I said, Than is not the most mobile god, so when you've landed, maybe you can like move his feet away, But generally, it can be pretty awkward, and you could be just caught there. So I wouldn't just ult for to start fights, but I think you kind of play them a little slower, wait for your time, and then yeah, I think he's almost like a Kali in a sense for team fights, where you're not the best initiator, but if you're given the right opportunity in the fights, you can just kind of hard snowball them in your favor, and then just kind of win them on your own almost. Once you're given a good like start from your team. So yeah, he can be a little team dependent in that sense, but uh he can be one of the most like polarizing gods late game where he can do nothing or he can kind of just hard like seem like hard like carry a fight once he gets the ball rolling, you know. But so yeah, in that sense, I guess he's just all about patience. Uh as a god in a whole as a whole, like I said, with his scythe and team fights, I think you just need to play stuff slow and make sure you're not rushing his abilities because yeah, that's kind of how the god can go badly pretty easily. Sometimes maybe you can just slam your abilities and just get kills if you're really feeling like it or really feeling it, like your sights are hitting and everything. But yeah, it's can be a little sketchy sometimes because of how susceptible he is to dying. Um, yeah, I guess that's about it for Thana. Just let me know what you think. Um. And what god I should do next. He's a little more basic, but so maybe I rambled a little bit. Um, but yeah, he's a basic but deceiving god. But yeah, let me know how you think the guide was and what god I should do next. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next one.